Dream Home is a 2010 satirical slasher film from Hong Kong directed by Ho-Cheung. The film follows a girl who tries to purchase her dream condo, but inflation and other factors cause the apartment to be out of reach. She goes on a murder spree to bring down the price of rent. Howdy folks, welcome back to Garage Slasher-thon, where every day for the month of October we revisit a slasher movie. Today we're talking about Dream Home, which isn't a really well-known movie. I don't remember when this movie came out, but I was also 12 when this movie came out, probably. But yeah, it's a really weird, not creepy, just odd. It's just the fact that this movie exists is a little odd. So it came out in the midst of the housing market crash. And it's weird because the movie opens with based on a true story. And it's not. The only true element of this story was that in 2009, housing was very expensive. That's the only thing that's true about this. I couldn't find any record of someone doing any of the things shown in this movie. Mostly because it doesn't respect the laws of biology in a lot of instances. But yeah, this is a very bloody, disgusting movie. I've reviewed quite a few disgusting movies on this marathon, but I think this takes the cake in terms of most disgusting. Maybe this along with High Tension. But when this movie came out in Hong Kong, they rated this a Category 3, which is the equivalent of NC-17. I went on a research about Hong Kong cinema in that time, and apparently Hong Kong was going through something that was very similar to what the French were going through, being drawn to extreme gore and violence in film. It was kind of like America wasn't providing that, so overseas they were compensating for it. In Japan and Hong Kong and the French, they were just like, oh, let's just make the most bloody, disgusting movies possible. But it's weird because it's really disgusting, but it's almost to the point of comical. I wouldn't say it's quite like the Evil Dead movies or something that Peter Jackson would make, but it kind of blurs the line between is this just gross or is this funny? It goes so far that it stops being funny after a while, and you're just like, okay, this is supposed to be funny gore, but it's not quite funny. Which I think is the reason why critics didn't like it when it came out, because it's kind of going for a more comedic thing from what I could perceive anyway. It's trying to be comedic and satirical, but it's just so realistic in a certain sense that it's not really funny. But then there's moments where it just doesn't respect biology, people are dead but they're still walking around like they're zombies or something. So it's a really weird mix. So for instance, there's a scene where a girl gets stabbed with a wooden stake just in her mouth, piercing her brainstem probably, and then the next scene she's walking around whoa! And I'm like, dude, you just had your brainstem pierced. I doubt that's happening at this point. Same thing with the guy whose intestines just completely fall from him. He's still alive for multiple minutes after that. So yeah, it's is it supposed to be realistic? Is it supposed to be cartoony? It kind of just didn't pick a lane. It went for the middle, which I could see how to some that's annoying, but to me I was like, okay, I've never seen this done before. It's kind of awkward to watch. And obviously this is this is the closest I can say that this is a modern B movie where the cinematography is lush, everything is beautiful. The guy who did the lighting work is the guy who works with Hong Kar-wai, and he did the lighting and it's beautifully lit, beautifully shot, but it has those B-movie elements of very cartoonish violence, a lot of nudity, a lot of drugs. You can see how this movie earned its NC-17 rating. But it's not just about the violence and the gore. There's also a satirical thing to it. They're trying to make commentary on the housing market in Hong Kong at the time. And it's very relevant today because when this movie came out, it was during the American housing bubble. And I don't know what the situation is in America, but I can tell you in Canada right now, housing is expensive. And it brought me back to that line in The Big Short.
You know what I hate about fucking banking? It reduces people to numbers. Here's a number. Every 1% unemployment goes up, 40,000 people die. Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
It's that kind of idea. It's like inflation really brings the worst out of people. And the movie tries to explore that theme. Does it do it well? No, I think it kind of falls on his face when it comes to that. Mostly because the main character is not really sympathetic. Her story is that when she grew up in a very poor house or a very poor apartment, and her grandfather would have to walk to the ocean every day just to look at the ocean. And she always dreamt of getting an apartment that's on the side of the water, so that way her grandpa doesn't need to walk to the ocean anymore. And that's like flashback of her as a kid. The whole movie is told in a non-chronological order. So then many years go by and she's still trying to get that fucking apartment. And I get it, there's like a sentimental attachment to it, but it doesn't really make for a sympathetic character when she ends up going on this murderous spree where she's snapping people's spinal cords, ripping people's eyeballs out, suffocating people, pushing a pregnant woman so that her fetus becomes mashed potatoes. It's like, okay, you really like your grandpa. That's nice. Doesn't really justify everything else you're doing, dude. I don't really support this. No, I don't. So yeah, the main character is not really sympathetic, and I think that's the main problem with the movie. If the main character was, say, like a mom who has a kid and she's trying to make ends meet and she's trying to at least get a roof over her head, it's like it becomes a survival story. It's like, I need to do this to survive. I need to kill people in this apartment so that way the rent can go down. If it was something like that, it would have been a bit more effective when it comes to its social commentary. But instead it's like, oh, this girl just wants a really nice apartment on the side of the water. And there is like a sociopathic element to this character. Obviously, she's a serial killer. But I just didn't buy her motivation. It's like, okay, yeah, your grandpa wanted this apartment. Boo-hoo. I get it, it's important, but she's also just kind of an asshole character after a while. Like, she's like killing her own dad to get the apartment, which I actually like that. And I actually like the ending of the movie quite a bit. Like, people keep telling her, listen, you can't afford the apartment, it's out of your reach, yada yada yada. And she finally gets to buy the apartment at a not so reasonable price, but she does it anyway. And as soon as she buys the apartment, housing bubble happens, the economy crashes, her apartment is now worth nothing. It's like if she just would have waited one more week, it would have been fine. But no, she just bought it the week before, which is a pretty ironic ending, and I like the ending quite a bit. But yeah, it's just the satire is a bit muddy. But a lot of people hated this movie. I don't hate this movie. It's a fun time. The kills are gruesome. It's bloody disgusting. It has a point, at least. At least it's trying to do something that I've never seen before. Never seen a slasher movie. It's just going around an apartment trying to bring down the rent. That was quite interesting. So in some elements it works. In some elements it falls a little flat. But overall, I can't say I wasn't entertained watching this movie, just for the kills alone. But yeah, that's how I felt about it. I think I have a soft spot for it because Canada is going through a housing shit right now. And it kind of hit close to home. Hit me in the feels. But that's how I feel about it. Did you guys ever watch this movie? It's not really a well-known movie, but I kind of recommend it. It's a fun time. Go watch Dream Home. And if you've seen it, comment below, let me know, and I'll see you guys around. Take care.